Hey everyone, and welcome back to Exposed, Scandalous Files of the Elite. I'm your host, Jim Chapman, and today I'm going to bring you something a little different. No rich and famous, salacious stories today. It is a salacious story, but it doesn't regard the rich and famous. And honestly, I should call this episode The Trend, but I'm going to call it A Mother's Betrayal, and you're going to find out why. Now, this story is not only trending everywhere you look online, but the subject of this story is so despicable that she deserves as much exposure as she can possibly get. And as y'all know, that is my specialty. So let's dive into this case, which is out of Illinois, where a 43-year-old mother had a baby with a 14-year-old boy. Now, if that weren't enough to knock you out of your seat right now, it's also discovered when this came out that this 14-year-old boy was actually her daughter's junior high dance date. Now, I don't know if they were boyfriend and girlfriend or if they just went to a dance together, but they definitely knew each other. And as a matter of fact, she chaperoned that junior high dance, meaning Robyn Polston. We'll get into the details of how all this happened. So this 14-year-old boy, he graduates from the 8th grade. This is in 2023. And he discovers that he's moving. His stepmother and his father were moving to Nevada. Of course, he was going with them. But he has family in Illinois. As a matter of fact, his grandparents were there, and he would go back and forth several times to Illinois after moving to visit his grandparents, and he would also visit his friends while he was in Illinois. Now, one of these friends were none other than Robyn's teenage son. So he would ask his grandparents and his parents while he was visiting if he could spend the night with his friend, etc. And there's nothing out of the ordinary there. Seems quite normal. You move away, you're a 14-year-old kid, you miss your buddies, and you want to see them when you go back in town. So that's not going to raise any red flags. And of course, everybody was agreeable to that, and he would do that when he would come back and forth. And the grandparents, they would even confirm that it was okay with Robyn Polston that their son spend the night with her teenage son. And she would say, yeah, it's all good. They're friends. I get it that he's, moved to Nevada, probably hasn't made a whole lot of friends there. So sure, he can come stay with me and hang out with my son. So we're in 2024 by this point. Now, what the grandparents and the parents didn't know is that he was not going there to see his friend. That was a front. He was really going there to see his friend's 43-year-old mother, Robyn Polston. So this type of arrangement would occur just about every time this kid would visit his grandparents. And apparently his behavior, it would completely change when he would head back to Nevada. He would just get this kind of jerk attitude. He would be a smart ass, and his dad and his stepmom, they would initially chalk this up to the fact that he was kind of having difficulty adjusting to this move to Nevada. You got to go to a new school. You got to get new friends, all that sort of thing. He just missed his friends in Illinois, and this was his way of dealing with these emotions. He would just kind of be an asshole for a few days, whatever. But it got so bad that he would start threatening to run away when he was in Nevada. He wanted back in Illinois. And he was eventually able to convince his dad to allow him to move in with his grandparents back in Illinois. And his dad, fearful of his son's mental health at this point and not sure really what to do, he agrees to it. So this 14-year-old boy, he moves back to Illinois, and despite that, he was still having some behavior issues with his grandparents. Well, enter Robyn Polston. She talks to his grandparents, and I don't know any of this to be 100% fact, but I'm just kind of speculating here. Maybe they confided in her because her son was spending so much time with their son or whatever and said, look, I don't know what this 14-year-old boy's problem is, but he's really being a smart ass and he's really been a lot to handle. Who knows? But what we do know is that Robyn Polston, she speaks with them and she says, hey, I think I can straighten out this kid. He just kind of needs a mother figure in his life, all the things. And Robyn suggests they let their grandson stay with her and her family for a while to see if it would help his behavior issues. And the grandparents, they agree to this. Now, the first really crazy little tidbit to this story is that his grandparents, they never told his dad and his stepmom about this agreement. I don't know. Maybe they thought that his dad and stepmom would be against it, but regardless, they kept it from the dad. So fast forward to the fall of 2024. This point, this 14-year-old is living with Robyn Polston and her daughter and her son. And Robyn Polston was a hairdresser, stylist, whatever, cosmetologist. She starts telling her clients that she's pregnant. And as you can imagine, they're excited about that because she was excited about that. And as you can imagine, when you're excited about that and you tell your friends and you tell your clients, typically they're excited for you as well. And this situation is no different. They're just so happy for their friend. I mean, she's 43 years old and she's pregnant. That in and of itself isn't exactly a common thing. Now, Polston, she was married. That's important to mention, but she had been estranged from her husband for some 12 years at this point. And I don't even know if most of her friends and clients knew that she was still married. So naturally, people in most cases, they're going to ask, well, who's the father? And Robyn would tell them that the father was a guy she was dating in the military and that he was gone a lot, but they're in love, all those sort of things. And that was her excuse as to why her friends had not met this guy and her clients. Now, another thing that her friends and clients would notice is that this 14-year-old boy, he was always around her, hanging with her all the time. And when they would ask Robyn, who is this kid that you're hanging out with, she would tell them that it was her military boyfriend's younger brother. Now, some other folks, like her photographer, for example, and we'll get into that later, but she would actually tell them that this 14-year-old kid was her boyfriend. But she would also tell them that this kid was actually 25 years old and he just looked younger. So in January of 2025, Robyn Polston, she gives birth to a healthy baby boy. She is like any other mother out there when she gives birth, right? She takes hundreds of pictures. She's updating her social media. She's just happy and excited. And guess who's right there with her at the hospital along with the rest of her family, meaning her son and daughter? Well, you guessed it, that 14-year-old boy.
Jim, did you see what happened in Texas today?
Wait, before you tell me that, let me tell you what happened in New York.
It cannot be as crazy as the case I told you about yesterday in Louisiana.
You know what? We should do a podcast about it.
And with that, we did. Crime Wire Weekly covers the crime news headlines that have dominated the week.
We cover trending crimes from all over the country and even sprinkle in a few globally.
Crime Wire Weekly is available now wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Simply by searching Crime Wire Weekly or clicking the link in the description of this podcast. As I said, there were tons of pictures after this birth that when you look at these pictures, you would definitely be taking these type of pictures with the father of the baby. Not pictures you would take with your son's friend who was just staying at your home. I'm talking just the three of them, Robyn, the baby, and the 14-year-old. Just a ton of pictures like that were uploaded by Robyn to her Facebook. So just like I look at those things as red flags. So did a lot of other people. And they start doing their own examining on who this boy was, their own detective work, if you will. And somebody somewhere, they got astute and they got a hold to a yearbook from the junior high school, and they're flipping through it. And lo and behold, there's a picture of this 14-year-old 8th grade boy that Robyn was claiming to some people was her 25-year-old boyfriend that just looked 14, and was claiming to other people that it was her boyfriend's younger brother. So they reported, whoever this was, I don't have that knowledge, but they reported to police. So at this point, police start investigating. And of course, they go to Robyn Polston, and she denies that anything is going on with this 14-year-old, much less that he is the father of this baby. They get Robyn Polston's DNA, and they have a warrant for this, from what I understand, the baby's DNA and the 14-year-old's DNA. Now, the issue with DNA is it can take anywhere from 6 to 12 months to get those results back. And you have a procedure in Illinois, and really all states have this sort of procedure, and that is that for it to be admissible in court, it has to go through a crime lab. You can't just send it to, whatever it is, 123andMe or whatever it's called. You can't send it to places like that. It's got to go through an actual state crime lab. And the crime lab's just simply backed up. Now, remember, this is Illinois. What's in Illinois? Chicago, one of the most crime-ridden cities in the country and the murder capital of the nation, it seems like. So I get it that they were backed up. I think it sucks, but I get it. So at the time, which now we're in April of 2025, police, they have no proof of any of this. This kid's not talking. Robyn Polston's certainly not talking. So the DNA is the proof that they need, and they really have to just wait for those results before they can make any sort of arrest. They just have no proof of him being the father of this baby. And as I said, the boy, he's not admitting to it, and Robyn for sure is not admitting to it. But certainly the pressure was on for Robyn Polston. And she tells this 14-year-old that he couldn't live there anymore because of this investigation. And she actually throws him out. He moves out, and he moves back in with his dad and his stepmom. And from what I understand, he actually starts attending school again. And we'll get into the fact that he wasn't attending school in just a minute. But shortly after she was initially reported, some really disturbing photos of Robyn surface with this 14-year-old. And I'll post the photos that I've come across on the Patreon, but y'all just will not believe these pictures. To describe a few, there's one picture where she appears 9 months pregnant, okay? She's in a white, almost looks like a wedding dress, and this kid is behind her. His arms are wrapped around her. This 14-year-old kid, his arms are wrapped around her, and he's holding the sides of her belly. And she has her head kind of tilted into his chest, almost as if she's going to, kiss him, and he's facing the camera. And there's another where he's facing her, okay? His back is turned away from the camera, and her hands are on his shoulders. And in her hands are the sonogram pictures. Would really be a cute picture if you have a baby with somebody, if the boy wasn't 14 years old. If it was like, 28 and 28, right? Just really sick shit, knowing what we know now. And y'all, she was posting all these pics with this kid on her social media. She wasn't trying to hide it. Now, keep in mind, this is her daughter's at least ex-date, somebody she knew. What was her daughter thinking? I mean, there's no way she didn't know that something had to be going on with this boy, in my opinion. I just feel horrible for her daughter. I can't imagine. Now, it has also come out, as I said earlier, that her father had no idea that this kid was even living at Robyn's house. A lot of people are like, how did his dad not know? Did he even talk to the son? And the shorter answer is not much. It appears he didn't speak to his son like every day. That's very bizarre to me. I have 3 kids. I talk to them all the time. Just very strange to me, but hey, it is what it is. And when they did talk, his son would just say he's hanging out with his friend at Robyn Polston's house. And his dad would talk to the grandparents, and they would actually play it off as if this kid was still living with them. I have no idea why, but it is what it is. That was the situation. And it also came out that the night that Robyn Polston kicked this kid out of the house, after all those initial allegations came out, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and he walked to some business in the middle of the night. It's freezing cold outside. All he has is the clothes on his back. According to reports, he didn't even have a jacket on, and he called his dad to pick him up, and he also let his dad know that in addition to the DNA, that the police had also confiscated his cell phone. Now, somewhere in there, there's a report that the boy had 3 cell phones on him when his dad picked him up, that his dad noticed that, and supposedly they were burner phones. I'm not going to really report too much on that because it's so hazy, but it is, there for information. So after all of this, a Facebook post is made by Robyn's sister-in-law. Remember, I told you she was still married, but she was estranged for 12 years from her husband. So her sister-in-law makes a Facebook post. And I'm going to read that Facebook post to you. It's very interesting. And here's what she said. I'm having a hard time finding the right words, but stay with me. Robyn Polston was my sister-in-law. She had me believing she was dating a man in the military and was having a baby with him. There were red flags that just kept adding up. She manipulated me from the beginning into supporting this pregnancy. The ugly truth is, she was dating her 16-year-old daughter's ex-boyfriend. He was 14 at the time she got pregnant. She hid him in her house for over a year, and none of his family knew where he was the whole time until they got a call from the police department stating that they needed his DNA. And then she puts in parentheses, cannot imagine a parent's worst nightmare. She continues to have custody of all 3 of her children, multiple calls to the police department for welfare checks, as well as DCFS. For some reason, even though she's being investigated for having a child with a 14-year-old boy, she is still able to keep her kids. I'm terrified for these kids and all their friends who go through that house now. And that's something she actually brings up a good point. Her kids are around the same age. So they have friends that are around the same age. How bizarre is that? I feel so horrible for those kids. But I'll continue on. Now, I have been turned out to be the bad guy because I'm not turning a blind eye to it. I've lost a sister, my niece, and nephew, and our relationships will never be the same again. Most importantly, justice has not been taken because they are still waiting on DNA evidence to prove the 14-year-old is the father of the baby. Because she claims she was, quote, catfished by this boy and had no idea who he was. Oh, also, it was a one-night stand, quote unquote. Anybody looking at the photos can see he is the same human her daughter used to date. The systems are failing. The new laws in Illinois make it impossible for her to be arrested and held if they don't have all the evidence up front, which is bullshit because everyone can see right through her lies. And they can see this boy is a baby, a child, just barely a teen boy. It's been 2 months since this has been reported. She mothered him and groomed him, taking him under her wing as he lost his biological mother and had other sick plans to manipulate him into a relationship. He wasn't even enrolled in school that whole year. Her children are being forced to lie for her and won't speak out against her. I have been sick over this, and I will continue to be sick until justice is served. Something has to give. And that was from her sister-in-law, and I couldn't agree with that more. So that post is posted, and time passes, and pressure mounts, not only on Robyn, but on the police. Remember, outrage is hitting Illinois, and this thing goes national. Large creators start covering the case, and no one could understand why there had not been an arrest yet. And then, just a week or so ago, on November 3rd, it happened. The state of Illinois gets a DNA match proving this 14-year-old boy was the father of 43-year-old Robyn Polston's now 11-month-old baby.
In the sultry heat of Louisiana, where the bayous whisper secrets and the air hangs heavy with the scent of magnolias, a darkness lurked beneath the surface. Derek Todd Lee was a man whose charm masked a sinister reality. He was a monster. Lee, a seemingly ordinary man with a disarming smile, led a double life that would unravel in a series of murders in the capital city of Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas. As the first reports of disappearances and murders began to surface, South Louisiana was thrust into a nightmare, igniting a frantic search for answers. The true horror was just beginning, and the hunt for a serial killer, eventually known by just 3 letters, would reveal not only the depths of Derek Todd Lee's depravity, but also the resilience of those most affected by his evil acts, the families and the survivors. This is DTL.
An arrest warrant is issued, and I'm going to review that arrest warrant with you now. Here's how that reads. It was actually filed November 4th of 2025. And it says, I, Cassandra Mulliken, am an assistant state attorney general for Tazewell County, Illinois, or Tazewell. I've reviewed the police reports regarding the investigation and would like to state the following. On February 6th of 2025, Officer Thomas of the Washington Police Department took a report regarding Robyn Polston giving birth in January of 2025 to a child. On February 13th of 2025, Detective Hinken obtained a birth certificate for Polston's child, identifying him as, and it's redacted out, the father's information was blank. The child shared the same middle and last name as the perpetrated, and it's blank, and we can infer that to be the 14-year-old boy. On February 20th of 2025, Detective Hinken made contact with Polston. Polston claimed that the father of her child was a man in his 20s named Brian. Polston also claimed that she had not seen him since the child's birth. Detective Hinken obtained DNA samples from Polston and her child, and it's redacted out. And later that evening, Detective Hinken was able to make contact with and obtain, and it's the 14-year-old boy's, DNA as well. DNA samples were sent to the Illinois State Police, and percentage analysis was conducted, which confirmed blank, redacted out, that's the 14-year-old boy, and Polston were the parents of, and of course it's redacted out, the child. During the investigation, Detective Hinken spoke with redacted out's father, stepmother, and grandparents, the 14-year-old boy. And Detective Hinken learned that the 14-year-old boy and Polston's daughter had attended a school dance together in May of 2023, which Polston had chaperoned. Shortly thereafter, 14-year-old moved out of the area and then returned around April of 2024 and June of 2024 for quote, brief visits to see a friend. In August of 2024, the 14-year-old boy permanently moved back to the area to live with the family of quote, friend. During further investigation, police obtained a search warrant for the Google accounts associated with the 14-year-old boy, a cell phone which had been seized and also downloaded. Provided within the data from Google were a large number of sexually explicit images and videos depicting 14-year-old boy and Polston together, y'all. Included within these photographs were 2 photographs in which 14-year-old boy can be seen performing, and it's redacted out on the redacted of Polston. In examining the photographs, it can be determined that Polston is responsible for taking the photographs. And it goes on to say that the defendant is charged with 2 counts of sexual assault, a Class 1 felony offense for which a sentence of imprisonment is required by law. And then it goes on to add 2 more counts to that. So there you have it. She is arrested. And here's the interesting thing. Now, typically, you get arrested, and then you see a judge, and you get your bond amount, and you post bond until your court date. However, in this case, a no bond order was issued by the judge. Apparently, this judge feels that there is just too much risk with Polston possibly attempting to contact this kid and maybe try to keep him from talking. So as of this recording, she is still in jail, and still this kid is not talking. And this is really the result, y'all, when a lot of this sick shit happens. This poor kid, he's in love with this woman, this 43-year-old woman, 30 years, practically 30 years older than him. She groomed him. She manipulated him. She raped him, which when it's a 14-year-old and it's a 43-year-old, it's rape. And now an innocent baby is involved. All because of this just disgusting, sick, and twisted mind of this 43-year-old woman. Now ask yourself this. Why did it take so long? The DNA, I get that, but the circumstantial evidence was certainly there in this case, and tons of it, and people have been convicted, much less arrested. People have been convicted just solely off of circumstantial evidence, and there was a ton of it here. But flip that script for a second. What if this was a 43-year-old man and a 14-year-old girl? Imagine the outrage that would ensue then. You think this person would have been arrested a lot sooner? I'd almost bet you every dollar I got that arrest would have been made much sooner. And that's what I'm trying to get at, y'all, when I bring you these types of cases. I'm trying to do what I can to remove that double standard. So for now, there you have it. I'm going to be posting pictures galore on this case on the Patreon for my celebrity members. So be on the lookout for that if you're a Patreon member. And on that note, if you would like to support the show, get all kinds of benefits, including commercial-free early releases, bonus episodes, files you can't get anywhere else, please check us out on patreon.com/exposed podcast files. You can join for as little as $2.50 a week, and it really is the lion's share of what supports us on Exposed. Thank you so much for listening. I'll keep you updated as things come out in this case. And until next time, for Exposed Scandalous Files of the Elite, I'm your host, Jim Chapman. Much love.